Good evening, good morning, YouTube. Salutations, wherever you're at. So I thought I'd go ahead and make a video for Historathon 2026. I mentioned it in a video yesterday for my 350 subscribers. So I thought I'd go ahead and just make a video talking about what I might read. If you don't know what Historathon is, there's some nonfiction guys on YouTube. The YouTuber's name is John David. He has, like, it's in parentheses, it's next to his name. It's like, I believe it says it's Nicholas of Ultra Court is the his handle. So I'll go and tag him again. 'Cause I tagged him in that video, but I'll tag him in this one as well. And I'll put a link to his video. But I'll go ahead and just briefly describe it in case you haven't seen it yet. So basically, there's a few different hosts, and they divide the year up into certain periods of history. So the first quarter of the year is the beginning of time to the year 500 AD. The second quarter of the year is the year 500 to 1500 AD. The third quarter is from 1500 to 1850. It's either 1820 or 1850 AD. And then after that, the fourth quarter is 1820, 1850 to the modern day. So, and the whole idea is it's nonfiction books. I really like nonfiction a lot. I read quite a bit of it. I tend to read more historical fiction, but I really enjoy nonfiction too. So, like, recently I've been reading The British Were Coming by Rick Atkinson. Right before that, I read Henry V by Dan Jones. I've read another Dan Jones book right before that, War of the Roses. So anyway, the point is I read quite a bit of nonfiction, and I thought I actually got a few that I want to talk about, some other nonfiction books I want to talk on the channel sometime. But anyway, for today, though, I'm going to just mention some videos I might read. I'm just going to do the first quarter ones for now. But of course, you know, this first quarter covers quite a bit of time, and there's a lot of different stuff you could talk about in this period right here. So this covers all of Rome and ancient Greece. So there's tons of content about those two subjects alone. And that's not even getting into, you know, ancient Egypt and a whole bunch ancient China and all kinds of other stuff you could get into. But I happen to really like the Roman and ancient Greek history. And actually, this first book I'm going to show you is another subject I really am interested in. So this is Persian Fire. Sorry if you can't. Sorry for the glare. I'm trying to show you guys the cover. It's Persian Fire by Tom Holland. Yes, that Tom Holland. Teen heartthrob Spider-Man. No, it's not that Tom Holland. But this is actually another kind of well-known Tom Holland. He's British. If you don't know who Tom Holland is, he is the co-host of the Rest is History podcast. I don't listen to as many podcasts as I used to. I tend to fill that space I would do with that with audiobooks nowadays. But I will occasionally listen to The Rest is History still. So it's Tom Holland, and I cannot remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. Dominic. Is it Holbrook? It's something like that. But anyway, Tom Holland is a nonfiction writer. I've read some of his stuff before. He had a book on Rubicon, which was about the end of the Roman Republic, and another one about just the Caesarian dynasty. But he's got quite a few nonfiction books and some fiction books too. So he's not incredibly prolific, but he's written quite a bit of stuff. So anyway, this Persian Fire is specifically about the Persian Empire, which is just a endlessly fascinating subject. This covers quite a bit of battles. I have not read this book before, but I wonder if it's one of the reasons I was interested in it is because I was wondering if it covered the March of the 10,000, which is a very interesting historical event. I'm going to assume it does because that's such a well-known historical event. There's a direct source about it that's a pretty well-known book too that I cannot remember the name of. It's like the March from Persia, and it's written by a Greek. It's like Xenophon, I think is his name, who wrote it. Anyway, so maybe I'll read that soon and talk about it on the channel because I've been wanting to read that for a long time. But anyway, it's a really interesting historical event. I don't know if this covers that, but it definitely covers a lot of the Persian and Roman wars and just everything to do with that. And, you know, in our modern Western world, we just don't learn that much about the Middle East, whether it's in school or, you know, there's just, the Middle East is incredibly interesting. History of the Middle East is incredibly interesting. If you want to see something, if you want to look up somebody really interesting from the Middle East, look up Tamerlane or Timur. That is a fascinating historical figure. He's a little bit later in history. That would probably be after 1500 no, he's probably somewhere right around 1500 is Tamerlane. But if you're not familiar with him, definitely look him up. Yeah, it'd be right around 1500 because Tamerlane, I think it's after 1500 because Tamerlane is kind of a reminiscent of, or a remnant of the Mongol dynasty, so, in the Mongol Empire, although he comes after that. So anyway, the Persian Empire, really fascinating subject. So if you're interested, this falls in that time frame, so you could read this. I'm going to get to this very soon. So I got a couple nonfiction books lined up. This is a good one too. So I got 4. That's the first of 4 books I'm going to show you guys. This one right here, this is The Storm Before the Storm. This is written by Mike Duncan. So actually, kind of ironic, I didn't really do it like that on purpose. Mike Duncan is also has 2 really well-known podcasts that he did before. They're not running anymore. That's how I got familiar with Mike Duncan. So he has a Roman history podcast that is really excellent. If you just want like an overview that's pretty detailed actually, and you got some time to spare, check out Mike Duncan's the History of Rome podcast. It's very good. And I think he did a really great job with it. But that's kind of how he got his name out here. I was actually listening to that podcast at the time he released this book in 2017, and I picked this up. I bought it and I read it then. And I haven't read it since. But it talks a lot about Sulla. He's a pretty prominent figure in this book. If you don't know who Sulla is, that's kind of like the name kind of plays on that. Sulla is like Caesar before Caesar. So Sulla marched on Rome and became a dictator and all the same stuff Caesar would do. Caesar would just take it to another level, but Sulla did it first. And it was probably very formative for Caesar, to be honest. But Sulla also fights with another historical figure at that time, which is Marius, I believe. And Marius was like a patron of Julius Caesar, or at least knew him. So, because I haven't read this in a while, so it wouldn't hurt for me to brush up on my history on that. So, that's, God, it's hard to believe that's almost 10 years ago. What? What? Anyway, yeah, but it's been a long time since I read this. I remember really liking it at the time, so I'd be interested to see if I still like it as much as I did. Mike Duncan wrote another book about Lafayette from the French Revolution, so if you like that, you read this and you like that, you should check that out. I haven't read that, but I've heard it's very good. So anyway, Lafayette was affiliated with Napoleon and some other historical figures, so he's a Frenchman. I said the French Revolution, so anyway, Mike Duncan has another podcast called Revolutions that is very good. Covers a lot of subject matter that not many people talk about, like Simon Bolivar, who's a really interesting historical figure. So anyway, but you can check some of that stuff out if you're interested. But this falls in that time period too, because this is actually, I think, if you, I think on the description of the book it says it's everything between 178 BC to like 58 BC. So this is definitely in that time frame. So anyway, we'll go on to the next one. So this, before this event, I just read a few pages of this today. I stopped the Rick Atkinson, The British Are Coming. This is Alexander the Great by Philip Freeman. So Philip Freeman has written a few biographies. I have not read any of his work, but I'm interested in this author. I've seen a couple people talk about this book before, at least one person, which is Joel Swagman Reviews. It's either Joel Swag Reviews or Joel Swagman Reviews. He seems like a really nice guy. He talks about movies and stuff on his channel, but he also talks about books. So check his channel out if you haven't seen it. But anyway, so I just started. I really liked it so far from and what I like about it actually is it talks about a lot about Philip of Macedon. So I know a little bit about Greek history already and ancient Greek history, but it's always fun to go back and revisit this stuff. Philip of Macedon is Alexander the Great's father, and he was not most people talk about him because he's really was just as successful and maybe even more so than Alexander. Really, Alexander inherited a whole bunch of stuff, military tactics, all kinds of things from Philip. Philip set a lot of that stuff up. So really interesting subject matter, and definitely check this out. Like I said, the little bit I read, I really liked it. I didn't read a lot of it, but I might start just a little early on those. It's technically not the first yet. So anyway. But just so I can try to keep up, because I don't know, I'd be lucky if I could get to all 4 of these this quarter, but I can talk about that a little bit at the end here. So this is actually another one by Philip Freeman. This is Hannibal, the bane of Rome. It says Rome's greatest enemy on the cover. If you don't know who Hannibal is probably have the most success of any general I don't know, maybe not the most, but had a lot of success in fighting the Romans during the Second Punic War. Invaded Rome, Italy, modern day Italy, won a bunch of famous battles like Kenai and some others. Anyway, really interesting historical figure. He would be around for quite a bit of while after that as well. So he's just a really interesting person. He's from Carthage, so if you don't, they burnt Carthage to the ground and sowed the fields with salt and all that. So anyway, really interesting historical figure. Definitely check this out, or learn about Hannibal at least. I haven't read this, so this would be new to me. Again, Philip Freeman is just really interesting to me, so as an author. So I will try to get to this quarter if I can. Hannibal's a historical figure I know quite a bit about, but so is Alexander the Great. So it never hurts to revisit this stuff and refresh the memory anyway. So, in the pursuit of lifelong learning, it's just something you got to do, because sometimes, details get vague and it's a while until you see some of this stuff. So anyway, but those are just 4 books I'll try to get to for the quarter. I don't know if I can get to all of them because I have some other reading projects I'm doing for the channel. I'm rereading the Sharp novels right now, and I plan on rereading all of Bernard Cornwell's catalog of books. And I also want to read Wilbur Smith's books again, which I've read a bunch of this stuff already, but I want to talk about them on the channel. Those are my 2 favorite authors, Wilbur Smith and Bernard Cornwell. So I got kind of those reading projects I'm working on, and there's a few other things I want to finish up. Like I'm reading the Essex Dog trilogy by Dan Jones. I wanted to read Power of Thrones by Dan Jones, which is nonfiction, and Templars, but I could save those for this event and just read them. It'd probably fall in the next quarter, so I might just do that. I'll save Power of Thrones and Templars for the next quarter, and I'll read those. I really like Dan Jones a lot. So anyway, those are just a few books. If you're interested, you can check them out. Like I said, the only one I've actually read is Storm Before the Storm, but it's been a long time since I read it. And I know I really enjoyed it the first time, like I said. And Mike Duncan's podcasts are great. And so is the rest of history, if you're ever interested in listening to podcasts. So I said, I don't do many podcasts anymore. So that time I would use for that, I fill with audiobooks now. So, but anyway, check out this Historathon event, man. I think it's really great these guys are doing this. I think more people should read nonfiction. Nonfiction can be just really fascinating reading, really interesting. And of course, you learn something when you read it. So it doesn't have to be biographies. I really like narrative histories. So like what I was reading, I'm going to take a break from Rick Atkinson's The British Are Coming, and I'm going to go ahead and at least knock out 1 or 2 of these to be in this event. So Historathon 2026, they have a Discord server for this. And so you can get on there and you can chat with people and discuss some of the books you're reading, do some buddy reads and stuff if you want to. There's also a side quest thread in there. So, and actually when he invited me to it, he kind of saw some of my videos and realized that I read a lot of historical fiction, but said I could I could still join and talk about historical fiction in the side quest. So I'll probably do that too. So because like I said, I plan on reading all these Sharp novels and even more Bernard Cornwell, and like I said, I'm gonna read some Wilbur Smith, and he's a historical fiction author as well. So anyway, so even if you can't get to some nonfiction books right now, maybe you can't this quarter for whatever reasons you're reading something else. You can join it and do the side quest like me, and we can talk about some historical fiction or whatever. So anyway, just thought I'd make a video about it. Like I said, I'm gonna tag him again. He was really kind and made some nice comments on my video. So, and I think this event's really cool. So I really think people ought to do it. So definitely check this out. Again, I'll make some more videos about it. I'll make a video at least every quarter. At least put the books up I'll try to read. If I can't get to them all, I'll at least get to 2 of these. I can guarantee that. So that's it for today, YouTube. You have good night or good evening wherever you're at. Read some nonfiction.